Hey there friends, and welcome to the Real Gems 1 year anniversary special. And what an incredible episode we have for you. But before we get into that, I'd like to take this opportunity to say that looking back over the past year, we've had a lot of fun on this channel. I mean, we got to talk about a lot of classic and beloved movies from yesteryear, as well as a couple of stinkers. We even did a couple of painting videos that I really enjoyed, and I really hope to do more of those in the future. And all in all, I'm pretty excited for what the next year is going to bring. I mean, the sky's the limit here at Real Gems, and I'm pretty hopeful that over time these videos will only continue to improve. I mean, I'm still trying to find my niche here, so to speak, but in all honesty, I just really want to say thank you to all of you out there watching these videos, and hopefully you find at least a little bit of entertainment out of them. So to all you Real Gemmers out there, I thank you. And so, as a special treat to you, in this episode, we're going to be paying a visit to a really good friend of mine and famous YouTuber, Farmer Spagetty, or Eddie Spagetty to his friends. And we're going to be taking a look at 4 classic films from the 1980s and giving our honest opinions on them. And so before we begin, make sure you hit that like, hit the subscribe, leave a comment, and let's get into what we affectionately refer to as Real Spaghetti. Let's enjoy. Hey there folks, and welcome to Real Spaghetti, where we dive into the movies and give our honest takes. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm having some fun here, and I'm pretty excited about this. So basically what we've done here is we've picked 2 movies, one movie that we've really liked, and one movie not so much. And we each did our own review, and we're going to sit here and discuss. Now, refresh my memory, what movie did you pick that you liked?
I chose Escape from New York, the 1981 classic starring Kurt Russell. John Carpenter film, best movie ever made. For Kurt Russell and John Carpenter, that is.
I'm not a fool, Pliskin.
Call me Snake.
Escape from New York takes place in the not-too-distant future of 1996, where a title character of Snake Plissken, a former military man turned criminal, has been captured and sentenced to imprisonment on Manhattan Island, which has now been walled off and turned into a prison. Yet to Snake Plissken's luck, the Air Force One happens to be taken over by terrorists and crashes into Manhattan Island, where President Donald Pleasant survives by escaping in his very own escape pod, only to be captured by a gang of prisoners on the island. Since the prisoners are allowed to roam free because there are no security guards, turning Manhattan Island to a war zone pretty much, being run by America's worst and most ruthless criminals. Like the Duke here, played by Isaac Hayes. And it's because of this that the government wants to enlist the help of Snake Plissken. The government, which is represented by Lee Van Cleef, who promises Snake Plissken that if he successfully rescues the president from Manhattan Island, he'll be pardoned for all his criminal actions. And no prison time, pretty much. So he agrees to all this shit, of course, and the awesomeness ensues. But there's just one catch. Lee Van Cleef has injected Snake Plissken with a virus that will kill him unless he rescues the president and brings him back to him in X amount of hours, 18, 20 hours. And once he does that, he'll inject Snake Plissken with the cure, so he doesn't run off and do whatever the hell he wants. And that is pretty much Escape from New York, which I think is one of the most awesome movies ever made. Now this is a theme that was popular at that time. It probably started with the Mad Max movies, about that shithole apocalyptic future. Many things make Escape from New York one of the greatest 80s movies of all time, but I think it's mostly Kurt Russell's performance as Snake Plissken.
Oh, definitely.
And of course, Lee Van Cleef's in it.
I mean, anything Lee Van Cleef's in, I mean, it's definitely going to be that much better. I mean, Lee Van Cleef's one of those guys, like he just makes everything gold.
And if you notice, that most of that movie always takes place at night too.
I didn't notice that, and I think
That
a
was
lot of
a
that
cool
has
part
to
of it.
do with the low budget. Possibly they didn't really have a whole lot of money for elaborate set pieces. Obviously, had the just trash-strewn streets. I mean, that's one of my negatives. Is just the lack of budget. Really, is what really helped.
And they
this
didn't
movie
even
back.
film it in New York City, except for
No.
the Statue of Liberty scene. They filmed most of it in, I think, Chicago, outside of Chicago somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's mostly the story and the acting in that movie, and Kurt Russell's performance as Snake Plissken.
Definitely.
Like, you didn't even need to call it, like, Escape from LA, you could have called Snake Plissken, I think. Would have made it even more interesting to see. How do you feel? Do you hate Escape from New York?
I definitely agree. I think it's a fantastic film. I think it's definitely adds to the whole genre of the post-apocalyptic films. Waterworld, Mad Max.
Mad Max, which probably started that
Very
whole
good.
theme.
Mainly the budget concerns. Set pieces, not very good. It was just trash-strewn streets,
Yeah.
broken down old buildings.
Alright.
Really didn't have a whole lot going on there. Also, the action wasn't as much as you would hope for.
Not really.
Like,
That's why it
especially when you
depended
compare it to
on
the
character.
sequel, like has more action in that one.
Or far more, yes.
But all in all, I think, like you said, the best parts of the movie was definitely the cast. I mean, Kurt Russell definitely nailed the role. I mean, Lee Van Cleef's,
Lee Van Cleef just being in the movie.
Borgnine, Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah.
So,
Good
yeah,
actors.
great actors, great
Well-written
performances. Fantastic music, like you said.
Yeah.
John Carpenter always does great music.
Always writes his own music.
So that's,
Even if the movie's not that great, his music's always awesome music. Well, anyway, that was one we can agree on.
yeah, it was definitely a good one. How many stars would you give it?
Pretty sure I gave it one of my highest ratings. I didn't give it the full 5 stars, but I gave it the 4.5 stars.
4.5,
because it's one of my favorite 80s movies, and it's Kurt Russell.
I gave it 3.5 stars. Thought it was a good movie, but there was a lot to be desired. But all in all, still a solid flick, and I definitely recommend it. And for the good movie that I picked, I chose the 1987 film Masters of the Universe. Masters of the Universe is the 1987 fantasy epic starring Dolph Lundgren as the sword-wielding hero He-Man, who along with his friends gets swept away into present-day Earth, where he must discover a way to defeat his arch-nemesis, the evil Skeletor, played by Frank Langella. Now, I really like this film. I mean, for me, it holds a lot of nostalgia, and I've always enjoyed it over the years. And I know a lot of people out there really like to dump on this film. Now, given it is a low-budget production, and it doesn't exactly stick to the lore of the original cartoon, but I found it to be a pretty entertaining film, and I had a lot of fun with this one. I really enjoyed the set designs. I thought the wardrobe and the characters in this movie were particularly excellent, and the casting was spot on, especially with Frank Langella, who really hammed it up as Skeletor.
I'll be back.
I mostly agree. Except for Dolph Lundgren's performance, he looks like He-Man, but his acting isn't always as good. You can sometimes tell
Yeah,
that he's
but
acting.
At the time, I really can't picture anybody else to play
Yeah,
that role.
he has
I mean,
the
he
look.
was
He's
built
the
to play
perfect
that
look
role.
for like
so.
Arnold is the Terminator.
Yeah.
Wasn't the greatest actor, but his acting wasn't. You can always say, "Hey, da, da, da." It's pretty much the same.
Yeah,
But
given-
everything else, I love the way it looked. I love the whole style,
I
that
love the
80s
sets.
fantasy look of it.
I love the costume designs. I think they did a really good
Oh, yeah.
job with that. Like Skeletor's whole look was fantastic. Like his army,
Yeah.
Evil Lyn, and all his henchmen, they were great.
Frank Langella is always a dependable villain too. So, but, yeah,
Oh,
other than
no.
that, yeah,
I
good
think-
movie.
I'd give it
Entertaining.
3 out of 5 stars.
Entertaining 80s movie. I gave it a 3.5 stars. We agree on this one.
There you go.
We totally agree. Wow. Well, those are the 2 movies that we like.
Those are the two.
We
Now,
basically agree, right?
the two movies we didn't like,
Oh boy.
which were yours.
Well, when we decided this, we randomly said pick two movies from the 80s. We each pick a movie from the 80s that we think is
really
overrated.
didn't like that much.
Yeah, like, this movie's overrated as hell, but yet it's popular,
And
but
yet-
overrated.
It wasn't until after we watched the films that we realized that they had the same writer.
And director, I'm pretty sure.
No, different directors.
Different directors? Okay.
But they
Same
were both
writer.
written by Cameron Crowe.
Cameron Crowe. Okay.
So what does that tell you about Cameron Crowe? We
Yeah.
both pick a shitty movie and they're written by the same
they both
guy.
happen to be Cameron Crowe. So sorry, Cameron Crowe.
So yeah. And
These
your
two.
movie was...
I went with Fast Times at Ridgemont High. This movie that I hear so much about, and I didn't see it when I was young, but I finally saw it maybe in my 20s, and I just keep thinking it's overrated as hell.
Can't fix this car, Macaulay.
I can fix it.
It's mostly because of the characters and the fact that it's mostly sex driven. It's like all about teenagers wanting to get laid. Jennifer Jason Leigh, who plays pretty much like the main character, I would guess, tries to bang any guy that comes along. The first scene in the movie, she's trying to have sex with this guy she meets after about 5 minutes. It's supposed to be romantic, I guess, but she bangs him in a dirty ass dugout. It's gross and unarousing in every way. But you do get to see her boobs. And they're acting like this guy is really hot too, and he's not hot at all. He's just some regular looking 80s guy. I mean, that was the problem. I couldn't really find the plot or who I'm supposed to be focusing on with this movie. They focused a lot on Jennifer Jason Leigh, it seemed like. But then they would jump to Spicoli character played by Sean Penn a lot.
Yeah.
Like, he was supposed to be like a main character, I guess, but you're supposed to like this guy and think he's funny, but he had that typical stoner thing, which to me is only funny for like 2 minutes, and then I just hate the character. And it's like, Sean Penn's a good actor, but I don't find him funny as the Spicoli character, which everybody seems to think is one of the funniest parts of this movie. The only part of the movie I did like, is probably the part that everybody liked, and it's the only relatable scene, is wanting to see Phoebe Cates' boobs. Again, it's a boob thing.
But they were nice boobs.
They were.
I enjoyed
It's-
seeing them.
I could relate to what Judge Reinhold was probably thinking right there.
Yeah.
He was whacking it.
I would have been Judge Reinhold in that scene.
Like, even though her character was sort of a stuck-up bitch in the movie,
Still hot.
yeah, she still had hot boobs, which Kevin Kline gets to see every day. But it's like, I couldn't figure out what was the storyline, really, the plot to this movie. It's just
I
teenagers
mean, it
wanting
was
to get laid.
basically your ensemble cast, really. I mean, kind of like Pulp Fiction, where it's just like a story over several characters and how they're intertwined and shit like that. But overall, there really wasn't much
All
of
the
a story.
characters were unlikable, no story.
Like, there was an empty plot, if there was a plot. It was basically Porky's, you know.
I think if I liked anything, it was
But I
Ray
kind of
Walston.
agree with you on the whole Sean Penn thing, except I came to the realization that this is the first time you see that type of character.
Is
like
was
the
he
dumbass
generic
stoner surfer
Okay, that's what
character?
I was thinking. Maybe he was,
Like, he was
just
the
first
prototype
time
of
they
that
done
character.
Okay.
So I kind of have to give
I
him
can
credit
give
for
him
that, for
that.
being
All right,
the
they
first.
started it.
But he did go a little heavy on the fucking roll.
Once I saw him with the bagel down the front of his pants, I was okay. This is
But like, hey, bro. I mean, yeah, he did start that whole thing, so I can't hate on him
I
too
could
much.
feel more for Ray Walston being annoyed
Yeah.
with that shit after a
But at
while.
the same time, I thought Ray Walston was kind of a prick. So.
He was just he was a prick, but I could see why he was pissed at
But
having
yeah,
to deal
I
with that
also
kind of
agree that
character.
it was definitely an overrated film.
And like him going to help him at the end made no sense. What, is that just to get him out of his class?
I don't even remember that, to be honest
At
with
the
you.
end of the movie, he shows up in Spicoli's bedroom to help him pass the class.
I totally missed that
Did you
part.
miss that part? Wait,
So.
like,
It wasn't the worst movie, but it wasn't great.
yeah, and my rating, I didn't give it the worst. It's just more like a 1 star. I'd never even want to see it again kind of
One
movie.
star. I gave it 2.5 stars. I think I was a little fairer, but
It's just
still
hard to
another
watch.
movie I'm not going to rush out to see again.
Yeah.
And so for my bad movie that I chose, I picked Say Anything. And I'm not going to lie, this movie was boring as shit. Say Anything is the 1989 romance drama from writer-director Cameron Crowe, starring John Cusack, Ione Skye, and John Mahoney. Now, the story centers around a high school underachiever who romances the school's valedictorian, much to the disapproval of her father. And to be honest with you, the characters were flat, John Cusack's entire dialogue solely centered around this Ione Skye character. Like, all you ever see him talking about is how much he cares about this girl and how he wants to date her. And then he starts dating her, and then all he talks about is his relationship with her. Like, the guy has literally no interest other than this chick. Like, you see him playing a guitar every once in a while, but does he actually talk about guitars? Hell no. Does he talk with his buddies about sports? Nope. All he talks about is Ione Skye through the entire fucking movie, and that's his whole character. Let's see, the Diane character had a little bit more going on for her. She had a college scholarship in England coming up. She had legal troubles with her father to deal with, and she was a little bit more fleshed out than John Cusack. But all in all, she was also pretty fucking boring. And then there was just some cheap subplot about John Mahoney stealing money from a bunch of old people that nobody really gave a shit about, and they really didn't add anything to the movie, so who really cares? Basically, it's an overrated teen angst comedy drama. Starring actors in their late 20s playing teenagers. And I give it 1.5 stars out of 5, and that's being very kind. So basically, I think Cameron Crowe, not a very good writer. Not a big fan of his work.
Not for these two movies, apparently. Because my opinion is basically the same. What bugs me is that whole radio scene.
Yeah.
What the frig? Like, I just watched this movie for the first time, and all this time I thought that he was outside her bedroom window with that radio.
He was? Yeah, he was.
But he was out, he's out in the park, and she's like in bed sleeping. They cut away to him, he's out in the park by himself.
Are you sure he wasn't in the driveway?
I don't think he was out in the park.
I thought he was in the driveway playing.
Where they like banged.
Are they nearby your house?
They never
She
even
must
cut
have heard
back
the
to
song.
her. They never even showed her reacting to hearing that.
I thought she did.
It
was a forgettable movie, so yeah. I mean,
that scene bugs me the most, but like that, like I think a better movie would have been the John Mahoney story. Only it turns out he wasn't stealing.
Yeah, and somebody was.
I was
filming
like,
or something.
I kind of liked his character at first. Like he was a decent,
Yeah,
like
he was a good
dad
father.
and shit. Except for his weird, slicky hairdo that he had in that movie.
Yeah, but for the most part, he didn't even have any story going on except for like the last half hour, where it's like your dad's a criminal.
Yeah, and
It's like
when
he
he found
came out
out,
of left
when he
field
found
and
out it
he
was
was,
true, I was actually disappointed that
Yeah.
he actually was a criminal. Like, oh.
Then you see him in jail at the end of the movie. It's like,
Yeah,
oh.
he was the guy I was rooting for the whole movie. Yeah, and I agree. Like John Cusack's character is the most directionless, boring character who only cared about Ione Skye, who was just sort of.
That's all he
basically-
talked about.
Yeah.
He didn't have
And
any
why-
other interest.
Why would she be interested in a guy whose
Yeah.
interests are solely just being
Her.
interested in her? He did some kickboxing thing for about 2
Yeah, I think
seconds.
about that,
yeah. It's
yeah.
like, then that fizzled out, and the movie just kind of ended too. He was on a plane landing in England, and I gave it a little more. I gave it 2.5 stars because I thought it was better than Fast Times at Richmond High.
And that's where we disagree, because I think it was worse.
I couldn't sit
But-
through Fast Times at Richmond High.
I don't think I could sit through
Yeah, either one of them. I think they're both overrated movies.
They're
We
horribly
both
overrated.
agree that they're overrated, and we both agree that the other ones are two of the
Oh, I
better
agree, yes.
80s movies, or greatest. But
So
Escape
yeah,
from New York.
Escape from New York, Masters of the Universe, great films. The other two, not so much.
But you could say any Kurt Russell movie is good. I mean, I would say that about Captain Ron just because
Kurt Russell, yeah. I mean, Kurt Russell's one of those guys.
Like if it was just Martin Short in that movie and somebody else playing Captain Ron, I would
Yeah, it could've been
choose
shit,
Captain
yeah.
Ron. Same movie, same script.
Different actor.
Yeah. It wouldn't have been the same. Kurt Russell brought Kurt Russell to that movie just like he brought it to that movie. Good movies and 2 shit movies. Now you know what we hate, now I know what we both like. So we basically agree on this one.
Yeah, who knows?
Maybe.
If we do another one of
Yeah.
these, maybe we'll find a
horribly
disagreeing one.
disagree. We'll find some topic.
You'll probably find a movie that I think is shit and he'll love. I don't
That's
know.
what we should do. We'll try to find a movie that I think is really good. and
Or we
he
could
thinks
watch
is
one of
shit.
those newer movies that I think are pure crap that
Yeah.
you'll probably enjoy.
That's
But
possible.
feel free to let us know in the comments what you want to see.
Next time. But for now, the balcony is closed. It was never open for you to begin with. Now get the hell out of here.
No!
Get out of here. Get out of here. Leave. Leave before I start shooting.
What?
Good night, everybody.
And that was Real Spaghetti. And we had a pretty good time with that one, I think. And if you'd like to see the Eddie Spaghetti version, I'm going to leave a link to that video in the comments below. So be sure to check that out, as well as the rest of his content. It's pretty good stuff. So until next time, folks, this is me to you, wishing you all the best, and reminding you to always keep it real. Bye-bye.